How to eliminate waste and risk in cargo movement. My name is Leon Gormans, and with me in the studio I have Richard van Klaveren and Daan Spikker. Richard is CTO and also co-founder of Teqplay. Daan is head of product. But let's kick it off. I have a question for you, Richard. What makes you tick? Why are you in this industry? Why are you doing what you're doing?
Yeah, well, I think I can be brief on that one. There's 3 words. Technology, innovation and collaboration. Since I'm very young, I'm already passionate about technology. Technology, fixing things, but also breaking things. And basically I think technology is an enabler to make progress, to improve things, to basically enhance things. So basically innovate and make changes to the world, so to say. And what I also believe is you can't do that all alone, or you can of course start all alone, but in the end, in order to get to the right results, you need to collaborate. So those are the 3 words that bring me together. And if you combine that with the maritime industry, you can wake me up for that.
That's nice. And Dan, you were in the maritime industry. What is your story of getting into the maritime industry?
Actually, my start in the maritime industry was a while ago, but why I was attracted to it was because of, I think, the complexity of the challenges that there are in the maritime industry. So, for example, if you look at container business, if you look at terminals, oil, gas, or containers, it's often a lot about solving really, really complicated puzzles. So it's about the interaction with big vessels. It's about all the different cargo that's on board, all the infrastructure that's at quay. And all these things have to be streamlined and have to be working perfectly. And from my engineering background, it really intrigued me to start solving that puzzle. To see how can I make it more efficient? How can I make sure it's performing better? And over time, I think I found it's not only about solving puzzles, which is really nice, but it's also about, there are a lot of things that are not in computers or not in digitization, are actually about people and about processes and about people making sure that people can actually work with all the digital products that there are. And I think over time that intrigued me even more than just solving the puzzle. It's more about making sure that the solutions that you have are really fitting to how people work with it, and the way that people work with it also has a big effect on the effectiveness of the solutions. And I think that's why I'm still in the maritime industry, because that's intriguing me even more.
Yeah. And for me personally, I did study in Rotterdam, so I know the city of Rotterdam, but I never was working in the maritime industry. And I started to realize how important and what big part shipping is actually playing in the global economy. And I think that's something which also is intriguing me. Like 3% of all 90% of all cargo is moved across the water. So that is really making the world go round. So for me, that was something which I stepped into that world, which is fascinating, impactful. But on the other hand, when I immersed into the industry, what really stuck with me is like how proud people that are working in the industry are on that industry. They have this pride, and I really love that. Cool. Richard, I want to have a question to you on digitization. You mentioned already digitization is an enabler. It's starting things. We are often talking about a digital twin that we have realized. So can you briefly explain digital twin? What is it that you do see in it, and what does it deliver?
Yeah. I think it's important to highlight digital twin. Typically, the maritime industry refers to a model of a ship or something like that. I think that's not the level of the digital twin that we're looking at. So the normal version that we're talking about would be about preventive maintenance, looking into status of the engine and things like that. And I think we're looking much more from a broader perspective. So I would say our digital twin is about the processes, about the cargo movements, and making sure that we get visibility on top of that. So we don't have just one ship into our digital twin, we have all ships in our digital twin. We don't have just one port in our digital twin, we have all ports globally in our digital twin. And by actually continuously monitoring what is going on all around the globe, in all ports, between all ports, with all vessels, actually, I believe we can provide relevant insights to people involved in shipping about what is happening right now, current status of the world, current information, but also about what is going to happen towards the future. So there's a lot of predictability into the system where we can predict about when a vessel will arrive, when it will depart again, and all of that comes together into our digital twin. Visibility, insight, and predictability.
And it also gives you, I think, it gives you a lot of visibility, but not only on your own things, right? It also shows you the world around you.
Definitely, yes.
Your vessels, but maybe competitors' vessels, and also everything that you normally can't see. For example, if you're a terminal, you can see all the things that are happening in a port call.
Which is actually a key point, because if you look at your terminal, you're only one participant in the whole chain, so to say. If a vessel comes to the port in Rotterdam, he might be easily visiting, I don't know, 3-4 terminals. So if you don't have visibility on the other terminal, you're missing part of the puzzle. So I think that's a key aspect indeed.
Cool. I think technology alone is not an answer. It's also about more things that need to happen. And I think one of the phrases that we are often using is like, you need to be in love with a problem, not with a solution. Even though we have built a great solution, I think it's key to focus on the problem. But if I say that, Dan, be in love with the problem.
All right. I think being in love with the problem for me, and I think for Teqplay, means to really understand what the problem is, to really get to the bottom of what is causing it, but also, okay, for which problem are we trying to find a solution? And knowing that that problem is not only felt in boardrooms or is felt by people who are looking at the monthly numbers, but it's actually felt by people who are doing work on the ground. They experience the problems themselves. For example, if they start working on Monday, what happened last weekend? What happened? For example, if you look at terminals or at liners, what happened with this port visit in last weekend? It mostly means that on Monday, everyone has some opinion, some idea about it, but it's really about getting factual on what actually is going on. And what we try to do is get from the highest level to actually the on the ground level, get clarity on what's going on, and understand that the problem is throughout the whole organization. So it's about not limiting you to a solution, but it's also it is mostly about just understanding and talking with a lot of different people in the business on any level to get full understanding of. It's nice to build something. It's nice to be innovative. It's nice to have digital products, but in the end, it's about it should match and it should solve a problem.
And I think the point that you were mentioning as well is it is key to engage. Otherwise, you will not have any idea of what you are solving.
I fully, 100%. Yeah. So engaging is, you need to do it because, we also don't know everything. There's a lot of wisdom and a lot of knowledge in every company, in every employee. Getting that knowledge on the table, getting that information and combining that with digital products and digital solutions, I think that's where the sweet spot is, and that's where you're going to start making improvements.
Yeah, and I think that is also, I mentioned like the pride of the industry. People are very open and willing to share on what they are doing. They're proud of it. They are sharing with it. I think that's one of the topics which I really love within the industry. Yeah. I think that brings us also to the next point, on which I want to elaborate a bit more, is change. If you bring this technology to the table, if you have fallen in love with the problem and have come up with a solution, that's one thing. But then it needs to be implemented within the organization. You have had the experience of doing these type of implementations. What's your take on that one?
Well, I think generally I think what you have to prepare for is that there will be resistance. I don't think there are a lot of successful digital projects that have been implemented without resistance. So knowing that is one, but also knowing where the resistance is coming from, why it's happening, and also how you're in the way you, I think, in your process, your implementation process, always make sure that the user and the human is actually in the center. You could think your digital product has to be in the center, but in the end, it will be the users who are going to use it. So making them very important in the whole integration and implementation of a digital solution, I think that's key. And that really also means understanding where the resistance is coming from, understanding why certain opinions might arise in an organization. And that's sometimes harder to do than just shifting it aside, because it actually means that you have to, and you want to start engaging and want to start talking to many people in the company.
Yeah. I think that is a fair point, and I think that's also something that we've seen in companies. On one hand, we bring technology. On second hand, we know like there is change required. What we also started doing is looking at consulting and really helping our customers. Our customers saying like, okay, you bring this great, you have this great digital twin, you bring these great actionable insights, but now we need to start doing something with that, and that I think is also a very important one. And the use in the continuous improvement projects that you were stressing earlier.
Exactly.
Cool. Richard, you mentioned collaboration is one of the passions for you. We've been talking about also a bit about the industry and the scale of the challenge that we have with the globalness, with everything being connected. Is it realistic at all to aim for collaboration in that sense?
To solve the puzzle in the maritime industry and in the collaboration. Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think, like Dan already mentioned, it's the problem that is there is quite a big problem, so to say. So there's many different stakeholders involved, and there's an ecosystem that has been evolved over years between all those different stakeholders, hedging risks, dealing with uncertainties and things like that. And I think such a big problem is not something that you change from one day on another one, so to say. So you need to work on that for a longer time. With so many different parties involved, so many different stakeholders involved, I also believe it's not there's no central authority that can actually regulate and say like, well, we need to go that way or we need to go that way in order to solve this situation. I believe solving such a situation typically is done in a way that nature learns it herself to us, so to say, and that's in the self-organization. Like you see in birds flying together in a group. They fly together in a group, not because there's one leader telling everyone where to fly. Basically, they have a couple of rules. They perceive the environment around them, and they see like 2 or 3 birds around them, and they apply a certain amount of rules in there. I think if we look into the problem in the maritime industry and in the collaboration, this is how I like to compare what we're doing there. Because I believe that what we're doing with our technology is giving visibility to the stakeholders in the maritime industry so that they are enabled to take the right decisions. I believe technology itself is not going to solve the puzzle, but technology is required as an input for the stakeholders to solve the puzzle. But in the end, it's all about the collaboration between those stakeholders with the relevant input, where I believe that we can make the difference in the maritime industry.
So it's relevant. It's not unrealistic to. It's just the next step in the journey that we're on in the industry.
Definitely, yes.
Dan, you do have a background both in IT and in operations. I always like the conversations that we have on that you have been in the industry and that you bring this very factual knowledge on how things are being run. It's different if you visit it or you have been running it. If you take those two perspectives, how do they combine? What is the value? What do we need to do with that?
I think in general, IT and ops, they're two. Most of the time they're two different worlds. It also attracts different kind of people. It really attracts different kind of people, different way of looking at getting things done. doing it in their often in their own typical manner. But I think what we really need to realize that without operations, your IT doesn't really do anything. In the end, the IT is there to run operations. The IT is there to get things done. And operations is there also to, and operations is actually being helped by good digital solutions. It's if you have good digital solutions and you have that integrated well within the operational domain, also in a way that people that have a different mindset than IT people have can actually work with it in a good way, so they can really support and really make their working day better with it. Then I think that's where the added value comes. So it's really about bringing those two worlds together, and it also requires you to understand both worlds to make it come together.
I think one of the points that we are discussing is all the DMIC model, the continuous improvement model. For me, that is also something which kind of comes out of the operational world.
It's. I think if you look at DMIC, so it's more the Lean Six Sigma improvement framework you're talking about. Then, actually, it could be applied to IT as well. I don't see it being only an operational domain, but it helps. I think where it helps the most if you improve in a structured manner, in a manner that you can also communicate to others. So if we're all talking the same language, which I think happens in with DMIC, for example, then you have an idea of what are we doing? What are we going to do next? And many people already also have experienced it in the past and also experienced how such a process looks like. But what I think the biggest value of it is actually that, especially within ops, but also in IT, especially if you get closer to deadlines or if pressure really starts pushing, you start doing things, you start changing things, you will try to start improving things. And not always looking at where do you get most value out, and which costs and which energy you put in there. What problem are you going to solve first, and what should be the preferred end state? And I think that's where it just makes sense to start with defining your problem, and also take a bit of time for it, measuring it, analyzing it properly, and then improve and control or check it at the end, because easily within an organization, you forget it due to all kinds of other things, and you start improving things straight away, knowing that probably it might help, but in the end also not checking if it actually helped, and also not knowing if your focus you put on this improvement, if it should have actually been put on another problem or another improvement. So I think I think important is to do it structured and to do it in a common language, and that's where I think DMIC or Lean or Six Sigma actually comes in. Yeah.
I think it's also if I reflect on it, I think this also reflects very well on the journey that Teqplay has been taking. If you look on the title of the podcast is Expose and Eliminate Waste and Risk. I think where we started off was actually in the elimination part. So we were helping people in operations to solve a problem that they did have. It was a relevant problem, no thing, but we actually shifted away from that and started to focus more on the exposure part and making it visible on what is actually happening, bringing understanding to what is it actually that is happening within not only your own process, but also in this collaborative sphere of the port call.
Yeah. And I think this is a very good point you make. And I think also with our customers, what we have been seeing is coming from mostly digital products, but also seeing that you can add even more value if you collaborate with them we can show you performance, we can show you data, we can actually give you visibility on things that you haven't seen before, but we can also help you in taking that to a next level, to actually start using that to improve your business or improve the port calls that with vessels that are coming to your terminal. by yourself, you probably wouldn't have seen it. For example, if you look at terminal visits, most terminals will look at how has my terminal been performing. But it's also about, okay, did the vessel also wait before it went into port? Did it go for anchorage, or was it drifting for 20 hours? As a terminal, it's something you're not aware of, but being aware is one. And then also knowing what to do is actually two. And then doing something is actually three. And I think that is also the challenge that we see, and that's also what we help with, right? To not only getting more visibility, but also get an idea of what can you do about it. And also, we also help customers with the next steps to, okay, now let's see, what can we improve, and can we improve it, and let's improve it.
I think on the exposure part, the other thing I'm very proud of is that what we have created is actually the visibility on a higher level. So you have actually this performance, this frameworks, which also brings me to the topic of standards. And Richard, maybe you can step in on this one. We have now defined, looking at port calls, there are standardization boards in these kind of things. What is your take on it? Is that required to use that type of information to help the industry in total?
Yeah, I believe definitely that is something that is required in order to get to true collaboration. I believe if you want to collaborate, there needs to be certain structure, and I think standardization boards are there to define that structure. And it's of course there's relevant people on the table at the standardization boards to work together to come to the best structure possible for everyone. So the different perspectives are being covered in that one. But I definitely believe that without standardization, on the long term, collaboration will not work on a global scale, so to say, or on a bigger scale than just between one or two parties.
Cool. Thanks. Yeah, and I think for me it is really an interesting journey that we have been on in exposing and eliminating the waste and risk. I really enjoy having this type of conversation, and we are typically deep diving into all kinds of very nitty-gritty details and not having these type of discussions. So I really enjoyed having this conversation. I'd like to thank you, and thank you for watching. Looking forward to do another couple of podcasts and sharing more in the industry, because that's the other thing I want to bring to the table. I think collaboration also requires sharing, and it's not only sharing of data, it's also sharing about insights and knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.